So thank you, Dan. Is there anything else, any other announcements from the floor? Anybody has anything for the good of the order that they want to bring up? No? Then I will have the honor of turning things over to our program presenter for this evening, who many of you know as the host of these meetings usually, but tonight he's here as our program presenter, Phill Hunsberger, who is an expert on all things Nepal, and he's going to tell us all about it. Phill?
Thank you, Lenny. I don't often introduce people from the audience, but I do have three favorite people here. They are my daughters, Holly, Robin, and Heather. Would you stand up? Gotten two of them to Nepal. Yes. I have been to Nepal many times. I have a nephew living in Kathmandu. He runs a coffee business. He is officially a missionary with the Mennonite Church. He does what we call business as mission. He runs a coffee shop, hires Nepali people, buys Nepali coffee, etc. It's quite an operation. Some things about Nepal or a trip anywhere that people are afraid to ask, and that is, how much does it cost? Well, I'm going to tell you. I went to Nepal for 6 weeks this past fall. I went there for a niece's wedding. Then, hey, when you're in the neighborhood, you take a trek. So we did. And after the trek, you get cold on a trek because you're in the high mountains. We went to Chitwan National Park to get warmed up. Holly Adams was there finishing her trek, and the two of us went to Chitwan. We had a wonderful time. For 4 days in Chitwan, it cost $240 per person. That included bus tickets to and from Kathmandu to Chitwan. The entire trip cost me $5,700. The trekking portion was $2,800. Now, this is a little bit of a wild one. The trekking portion was estimated to cost $1,700. It came in $900 over budget. We'll get to the reason why it is so far over budget. Flights to from Philadelphia to Kathmandu were $1,500. To get a visa was $125. You want to know anything more? See me after. There are a few things that I would rather do than talk about traveling in Nepal. Now, we put the map of the world up just north of India, just south of China. The Himalayan mountains run in that area, and that is Kathmandu. Now, thank you, Danielle. Yes, this is a map of Nepal. You will see Kathmandu in the center. That is the capital. That is the international airport. And then over to the right is Mount Everest, right on the border of China and Nepal. To get from Kathmandu to the area in Everest, it is best to fly. And just to bring people up to date, in 2014, there were many people in this room that were on a hike that was mostly made up with AMCers. Margaret McDonald, yeah, Margaret Moore. I'll get my Margarets right. Lenny Steinmetz, Bill Steinmetz, Mark Kern, and Jim Brodsky. Also, a good friend of Jim Brodsky's, if I can get the pointer, Tom Burnell from Virginia. And oh yes, I am there too. Out of that group, 5 summited Le Boucher East, which is a 20,000-foot peak. On that trip, as well as this trip, the goal was to make it to Everest Base Camp. That time, 5 people made it to the summit of Le Boucher East. This time, 2 people did. Mark Kern, my nephew, Dean Nafziger, Dale Nafziger, Bill Ashwell, and Margaret. Just a little funny from Margaret. Margaret came back and she could not talk after all of the fresh air and so forth. Now, you generally think, oh, that's funny. Margaret can't talk. We don't have to listen to her. Well, it was quite the opposite. I was scared. Margaret can't talk. We have to, and we went off to see a doctor, and he assured us that things were pretty good. Did he give you medicine or not?
No, he said basically a hungry cough.
And yes, and within a couple of weeks, a month.
Buy some cough drops in the market.
And yay. So that takes care of some. And by the way, this is the 5 at that summit of that peak. Our first day on the trek was spent in the Kathmandu airport, sitting on our bags because the atmosphere, the clouds were too low in Lukla for us to leave Kathmandu. This is what we had hoped would happen. I am standing on a 10-foot high stone wall at the end of the runway. The runway is sloped uphill 12%. So this is what happens. And yeah, these planes come in the morning while they can see. This is the tarmac. They can handle 4 planes at one time. Yay. We instead, since we sat there, we decided to take a helicopter. By the way, that airplane cost $200 per trip, 200 in, 200 out. We got the helicopter, 500 in, 500 out, but we did get there. And you'll see, I don't know, maybe, I'm not sure. Maybe I was a little, whatever, but we got in and then they piled all the luggage on top of us. This is my nephew sitting across from me on the other side. But the views were absolutely fabulous. And here is a little video of us flying. It is just absolutely fabulous to see Nepal from the air. Look at that road on the top and look how steep the far side is. Yeah, it's quite a place. So on Wednesday, September 28th, we hit the trail for day 1 in Lukla. My 2 nephews, Dale Nafziger, his brother Dean, Barb Bloomberg, which many of you know from New Hampshire, and myself. We were the 4 trekkers. This is the area that we started. It is a very lush growing area. Very nice, lots of trees. This is the trail. There Barb is heading down, smiles on everyone's faces. It is unbelievable to see what travels on the trail. Now that can't be too heavy, but I can tell you this, it's awfully bulky. And they have these benches along the way that us trekkers use, but they are the places for the porters to put their load down and take a break. There are all kinds of shrines, prayer flags, and so forth all along the way. We hit villages quite a few times. This particular area is only open to air traffic and foot traffic. Everything that comes in generally is carried on someone's back. And here is the pack animals. These go up and down the trail, again, carrying the loads. Just beautiful, but very rough area. And notice the pathway, you get some nice laid stones. Do watch out, they're not completely level. This is the end of the first day. That is the lodge up there, and you can see by the lights showing in the building, it's almost dark. Next day, we started out. We are going uphill for 10 days. We go from elevation of about 8,000 feet up to 18,000 feet. For just another thing that happened to me along the way, I had open heart surgery 9 months before this trek. I had hoped that I would be able to make it. I did mostly. In the past, I would put out, I would think 60, 70% of my maximum whatever to get up the trail. I felt this time I was putting out 90, 95%. I do praise God that I made it. And again, many of the little villages that we pass through, all of them have places to eat and places to stay overnight. This is one of the bridges there. All of them are well built. All of them have a shake and a wobble to them. And you'll see any of the products going on. That little bump on the top there is the guy's personal gear. Everything else he's carrying. I have no idea what's in there, but it can't be too heavy. We came to a checkpoint where we entered Sagamata National Park. Our guide had to arrange or pay the fee to get into it. And this is really a decorative place to see all of these people and their animals. And these animals are obviously going down to get a load and bring back up. Many of you have seen the movie Everest. This is the double bridge. The lower one is the old bridge. The upper one is the new bridge. And I kind of disagree with the movie. The movie was filmed about the incident on Mount Everest in 1996. There was only the lower bridge at that point, but we'll forgive them. This is what the bridge looks like. And halfway across here, my nephew looks down at the bottom. I would say that we are well 150 feet above the water. It was, all of their bridges move, but you feel, at least I feel safe on them. So it's been, and this is just another hiker along the way there. And here we are entering the town of, or the village of Namche Bazaar. This is the major area in this part of the world. All food stuff that comes into the area will go through Namche Bazaar. They have a big bazaar there once a week, and practically all of the lodge owners all the way up to Everest Base Camp come down and get their stuff here and then take it back home. A very nice place. I think there is roughly 200 lodges with about 40 rooms each. So do the math, they can handle a lot of people. And in order to handle the people, they need propane. So here is the propane delivery to Namche Bazaar the day that we were arriving. And here is another group of pack animals coming too. So you gotta watch out because there are animals all over the place. This is the lodge we stayed in. It is the Annapurna Lodge, really a classy place. There's Barb and I sitting in the dining room and had very good food the entire trip. My nephew Dale, like I said, runs a coffee business. He's a little bit on the snobbish side when it comes to coffee. He carries his own coffee beans. He grinds them each morning and uses that press there. And like he and I, we are Penn State. This is up above Namche Bazaar looking down. Again, a very popular thing to look at Namche Bazaar. There are nice hotels in the area, nice places to eat. We spent 2 nights in that lodge to help us acclimatize. And this is a break in that one day where we had tea.
We all have matching hats.
Yes, yes. Hey, this is Lenduk, our guide. And that was one of the things that we got the first day is our hat. And this is his assistant guide on the other side. And this is the trail at that point. We're approximately 11,000 feet now. Just beautiful, beautiful area. As we go further up, the peak just here at the side is Ama Dablam. This is a video from the 2014, and I liked it so good I had to show you again. By the way, that's you, Margaret, on the far side there going up. Yes, you give these animals the right of way. Stop for lunch. Pardon me?
Those are proper yaks with the long hair.
Yes.
And the ones with the short hair are the doe or the
They
yak
are
cattle mix.
They are the yak cattle mix. The yak do not do well below 12,000 feet. That is the reason why they crossbreed, so that they can get an animal that works better at a lower elevation. And here we are eating lunch along the trail. And here was part of our entertainment while we were there for lunch. This is me finishing a climb. There's a number of pictures of myself in here, and you want to see a hurting hiker, look close, look close. Yes. And here we are at Tembuche Monastery, a very large monastery, 12,600 feet. Things are going good. And let's go back one. This is the village of Dingbouché, one of the, it is one of the highest permanently lived in villages in the world at almost 15,000 feet. There are several villages at other places in the world that are approximately this elevation. You'll notice the open fields. Their product, the crop that they raise are potatoes. They obviously use a lot of them, and it will fit this climate.
Did you go into the Hotel Good Luck?
Did not. We were in another one across the way that didn't have its name on the roof. Now, just to talk a bit, that mountain in the back and the little hump on that, that is Island Peak. The Nepali name is Inja Tees, and you'll notice the little, I can't find my, right there. Dale and I stood there in 2007. That was on a previous trip. By the way, I was younger then too. And this is a close-up of that particular peak. That particular day, we went on we stayed in Dingbouché 2 nights to help us acclimatize. Every third day, we stayed in the same village 2 nights. And this is from the very high point looking down. And again, Island Peak is that little one there in the back. And this is looking down on the river valley. Then this is looking out. This is our first glimpse of Le Boucher. And that lower peak there is the one that they are headed for at the end of the trek. For this particular trek, my 2 nephews, Dale and Dean, went to the peak. Barb and I turned around and came down, and we were separated for several days, and then they caught up to us. And you'll see the trekkers out here along the plateau. It is just great to be out there and just feel the air and realize how small you are to the total environment. And this is one of the bridges. This is Barb coming across. And there I am being followed by the guide. Again, one of the little villages. We did not stay here overnight, but we did stop and have refreshments, tea, and whatever. This is a very interesting part of the journey to Everest Base Camp. This is the memorial area for those who have not returned from Mount Everest. There are just many stone rocks. Many of them have inscriptions on them. And this would be a group of pack animals taking things down the mountain. So this is most likely climbing gear from a group that was doing things on Mount Everest. Generally in the fall, there is not attempts to go to the top of the mountain.
Phil, you mentioned your two nephews went up to Island Peak, right?
My two nephews, in 2007, my one nephew who lives in Kathmandu and I went up Island Peak. This trip, well, in 2014, they were part of the 5 that went. And then this trip, just the 2 of them went back.
So when you have a guide, did the guide stay with you or did the guide go with them?
The guide goes with them.
Okay.
We were given a porter to help us down, that we were the easy part of the group. And our guide spoke a few words of English. Our porter guide spoke a few words of English. And as you can see, we made it. This is standing, that is Barb there in the yellow hat. And these are many of the memorial for people. These 2 pictures show you a lot. Here is a gentleman from Dallas, Texas. I don't know that any bodies are entombed here. These people are people who, unfortunately, are still on the mountain. In 1996, during the great tragedy there, Scott Fisher was one of the famous guides that did not make it back, and this is his memorial. This is the village of Le Boucher. Not much, but you don't need much up there. This is my room. I slept in the one bed, piled my stuff on the other. I think I paid probably about 200 rupees for the room. That's about $1.50. The meals were much more expensive than the room. Again, a group of yaks heading down to get a load and bring back up. And there is one hurting trekker. Yeah. This is, again, the village. This is the afternoon we arrived. And then the next morning, we were surprised to having about 3 inches of very wet snow. It was slippery. Fortunately, we did not have any strong uphill climbs. And here we are going again. This is at the last village on this particular trek. It is Gorik Shep. It is about 17,000 feet. And as you can see, very wet. This is me and the guide. I decided that I would stay in the lodge for the next 2 days and recuperate so I know I could make it down. And I think that was a wise choice. This is the village. And here we are, Gorik Shep, looking at it from the other side. The other 3 in the group did go to Everest Base Camp, and this is part of a glacier. This is a river of ice that is taking its time to get down off of Mount Everest. This would be the lower area of the Khumbu icefall. If you hear anything about Everest, one of the areas of most concern is at the bottom of the mountain. You go through the icefall, which is a moving glacier, and that can become very dangerous because things are so precarious there. And here they are. Lenduk, Dale, Dean, and Barb. We came back down that one-day hike to Le Boucher again. Here we are, the two guides and four of us. Barb and I at this point are going to go with the one porter down, and the two guides and my two nephews are going to go off at this point and start the climb. Just for the sake of showing the slides, the next set of slides is that of Barb and I heading down. We had relatively nice weather. We had dry weather. The trail is quite good. We have beautiful views. This is down on that area heading back towards Fariche. And here is a group of pack animals heading out. A nice bridge that we crossed. Barb and our porter guide just had a very nice time together. A little village that we went by. And I don't know, I would think we crossed half a dozen, 10 of the swinging bridges. You get used to them. And I can tell you this, when you consider the fact that you would have to go down steep banks on either side, and who knows how to get across the water, you fall in love with the bridges. This is at the Tembouché Monastery. This view open in the morning lasted for maybe 20 minutes, and then it completely fogged in. Now for the other group, they came down and crossed over the first night and started up the next morning. This was that first evening when they went in and set up camp. This was their camp the morning of Friday, October 7. This was their high camp. And here they are learning some of the skills of roping together, using an ice axe and so forth. The guides have just been excellent in helping us people learn and practice these particular needs. And as it says, this is Saturday, October 8th, 3 a.m. That is the moon rising. These are the reasons why you trek, the reasons why you go high, to get these experiences. This is 5:25 a.m. A little bit later. By the way, this mountain was socked in where you could not see for about a week, and there was like 2 days of open weather, and one of them is this day. 6 a.m. I like what my nephew has put there. 1 step followed by 10 breaths. Yes, they are probably in the area of 18,000 feet now. 6:45, looking down and looking up. I can tell that the one looking up, the yellow gators is our guide. And then one of the beautiful shots where the high peaks are above the clouds. And here they are getting up further, and the final approach and the summit.
So did Dale and Dean say anything about how the second one was different from the first?
Dean said that he wasn't in as good a shape, but he felt that the guides were better and directed them better. And they really enjoyed both of them, to the point that they are looking to do a 7,000 meter peak in 2024. These 6,000 meter peaks they call them trekking peaks. They have very little or no technical things. The 7,000 meter peak will be a formidable mountain climb. So this was kind of their last lesson before the big climb. And here are the 2 guides and the 2 clients. Margaret, you were there. Yay. And yes, the views are why you go. And then coming down, and as Ed Viesters has said, getting up is optional, getting down is mandatory. And there they are with their mountain in the clouds behind them. And then Barb and I are just kind of lollygagging down the trail. And then they took 2 days to get up the mountain, and they caught us in 1. And here we are at our awards banquet. That is Len Duc, our guide, and I'm listening carefully. This was really interesting. He had guides that he had not worked with long before. And I don't speak any Nepali, so I can't tell you what he was saying, but my nephew Dale was, and he was instructing these porters that they do not spend all of this money in one place, and they don't go out and get drunk. And he was laying the line down to them. So interesting, interesting. And this is a yak steak dinner. It was good. And we got back to Lukla, ready to take our airplane out. And this is what our flight day was. Solid rain the entire day. And this was not a good thing. The next day, the next day is when I got a picture of that airplane coming in, because we didn't have tickets for that day, so we were high and dry. Len Duc spent all day talking to people who ran helicopter services, and we were the last flight out of the day. We left Lukla at about 4:30 in the afternoon, and here was one of those unbelievable things that I've done in my life. The helicopter took up. Now, right in front of us is that deep canyon of about 2,000 feet, and the fog is thick, thick, thick. And we go over the little village, and we get over the canyon, and much to my surprise, the helicopter started down. And we flew for about 20 minutes in this tight gorge with the clouds above us, and we could see out in front of us. There was good sight distance. And we flew for about 20 minutes before that fog went away from over top of us. That was something. And that helicopter pilot really knew his thing. We stayed on a nice even course. We were well away from either side, but we were below the clouds. Now on the left here, we have on the top of Himlung, 7,126 meters. That is the peak that they are planning to do in the fall of 2024. If you're interested, you got to prove to them you're in shape. But well, we can see about that. And then the one on the right shows Lenduk when he summited Everest. I think that was about 2019. So very good person. After the trek I mentioned at the beginning, we went to, you're cold because you're up there in the cold, wet, damp weather. We go to Chitwan National Park, which is in the south, right on the border between Nepal and India. It is on the Terai, it is flat, and it is hot. Holly and I were there at the end of October, and we were very happy that the air conditioning was on in the lodge that we were in. Now, I have just a few pictures here to show of the character of Chitwan. You get an elephant ride, 4 of you sit in the basket on the back, and the elephants can go across the river. I think what they do is take them across the river so they can get a drink. And this again is a picture from a previous trip where we saw a rhino going one way, and the people that take care of the elephants are bringing the grass back from the area on the far side. But it was really neat to see these animals. There is a wonderful boat ride to be taken in Chitwan. You have well, there's what, about 10 of you sitting there in the boat. There is a naturalist in there somewhere, and then the guy pulling the boat, getting the boat downstream. If you are a birder, put this on your list. It is an absolute wonderful place to go. And you will see all kinds of wildlife. This is a crocodile. I'm going to estimate he's 12 to 14 feet long. And there, don't get out of the boat, don't fall out of the boat. I don't know. These guys seem to be pretty docile, but then again, we all know how docile the bison are in Yellowstone. So I have an idea that you don't want to test them. Here is a rhino that we saw in a pool in the wild. And then we went to the elephant breeding ground, and here is the elephant trainer taking mother and a baby for a walk. And that is the end. Now, I will take as many questions as I can. I don't know if those people online have the opportunity to make questions. I understand they do. I would say type your question into the chat box. So questions, comments? Yes, sir.
How did you pick October, or was that?
Okay. Nepal has a rainy season, monsoons from the end of June until the end of September. October is the best month for trekking in the fall. And then in March and April are the good trekking times. And you will notice the climbers, the serious climbers on Everest, do their attempts on Everest in early May. What happens at that particular time, particularly among the high winds, the monsoon breezes come in from the south, from India, and the cold air comes in from the north. And that seems to equalize in early May at the high altitudes. That is the reason why. And Nepal, Kathmandu is about the same latitude as Central Florida. The only thing is Kathmandu is 4,000 feet high. So its temperatures are moderated from what Central Florida would be. Dan.
How does it feel to be up on an elephant?
How does it feel to be up on an elephant? It is fun, but it is very bumpy. You are there, you're on a corner of a thing and you are getting rolled around. Holly, how does it feel to be on an elephant?
You described it beautifully. Yeah, I know. You're way up there, and the other thought I had is I don't like being on horseback because I don't feel I have control. And that's kind of how I felt on the elephant too. It was going to do what it wanted, but it was pretty amazing.
But the great thing is they can show you rhinos close up. They can show you crocodiles close up, and you're about what? 10 feet up. Yay. Yes.
How many miles were you averaging a day?
How many miles? How many miles were you averaging? Very little. I think from Lukla up to Mount Everest base camp might be as little as 20 or 30 miles. And you do that in 10 days. What we look at is elevation gained and hours on the trail. Most days we spent 4 or 5 hours on the trail, maybe a maximum of 6 or 7. Oh, and something that I should have asked a long time ago. Who here has been to Nepal? And who here has been on the Everest trek? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now you know who to ask the questions of and see if what I've told you is really right or not. Margaret.
You said that the budget ended getting blown out from your original estimate. What caused that?
The helicopter ride. Like I say, we budgeted for 400 for the helicopter, and it came out to be just a tad under 1,000. So that blew the budget out. But on the other hand, we all agreed that that was money well spent, because otherwise it would have been a long time till we got out of there. Holly, tell us about your getting into.
We did not take the helicopter, and we had a 4-day weather hold in Ramachandra. Yeah. They were not allowing planes to go in and out of Kathmandu for climbers, and we had to go to this Taj Mahal. Not quite what you'd expect. But, and then every day we take this huge winding, switchbacking road to the airport and hope we could get out. And we'd sit there at the Trekkers. It was the Trekkers Hotel, Trekkers Lounge, entertaining ourselves. We found after the first couple of days, we get a boxed breakfast every morning of 2 pieces of white bread, the crust cut off, an egg, some mango juice and banana. And none of us really liked our white bread, but we determined that the goats at the airport really enjoyed it. So we would entertain ourselves feeding the goats. And it took us 4 days to get out. Yeah, because of the weather. And
Yes.
And we considered taking a helicopter, but not all the way in, not the loop club, but and extending our trek. But it was, again, as Phil says, a lot more costly.
It's a lot more costly, but believe me, if you're on a time schedule, it can really ruin your time schedule. Dan.
So you mentioned like every 2 days you would have an acclimatization day and you wouldn't go anywhere. What did you do to entertain yourself on those days where you're just staying in the same place?
Thank you for asking that question. Dan just asked, what happens on those acclimatization days when we didn't go anywhere? I guess I did not say that we slept in the same village 2 nights in a row. Every day we would go high and get acclimatization and come back down. Now, being that I kind of took this idea that I was just a patient and I didn't go on all of these climbs. Not sure that that was a good thing, because taking the climb high, one, you got wonderful views. And then coming back down, you then helped you acclimatize by sleeping in the same bed, same elevation. That was the thing. So there was no time to really, oh, well, we're just going to sit around.
Did you sleep well on those acclimatization days?
Did you sleep well was the question. I slept beautifully. I mean, I was so tired when I went to bed. I a lot of times went to bed at 6 or 7 in the evening and slept 12 hours till 6 the next morning. I think that was the common, rather than being up. I just slept. Margaret, how was your sleeping when you were there?
About the same. I would say we all went to bed early, retired early, and slept pretty early despite the altitude, because that can be a problem at high altitude. On the high camp, on the ascent of Lobuche, the sleep was not so good. And then you started at midnight with headlamps. So you start in complete darkness and go up so that you are climbing on the top of the mountain in the morning when the snow is hard.
When in 2014, those of us who did not attempt the peak went to meet the ones coming back from coming down to the peak. I have never seen such exhausted people in my life as those 5 people. I could not see how they hiked as far as they did that day. So my hats off to you. Yes, Jerry.
The more remote villages, is the water safe to drink at those altitude? And with the food, other than growing potatoes, do they do anything else? Everything else
Is the water safe at the high altitudes, and do they grow anything else at potatoes? Where do they get their food? First of all, the water in Nepal at any place is not safe to drink. You don't even use a teaspoon of water to brush your teeth. You will get sick and you will, oh my, terrible, terrible, terrible. So we always had a water purifier, a pump along. You can buy water along the way at a reasonable price. So we used water. Now, the higher elevations, I would say most of those villages on the trek would import 90 to 95% of all of their goods and food. There are some that would have, like with Dingbouché, they have the fields there where they do grow some potatoes. It would be interesting to know whether they feed more potatoes than what they grow, thus having to bring some in. But everything else would be brought in. And believe me, practically every trekker is a vegetarian on the trek, because if there is chicken or meat on the menu, it's going to be high cost, and it's not going to be often that you get it. Most of the time you get rice and vegetable. Vegetable can be anything that grows there or has been brought in. Like I say, a lot of rice, a lot of potatoes, eggs, and lentils. Yes. Yes, Jerry.
What pollutes the water there? I can see that your lower altitude, yes, but you got snow and that, is there something, minerals or something in the air?
No, it's not minerals. It's human waste and animal waste. The river and stream system is the sewer system. And in fact, some of the nicest restrooms I've seen have been built right over a stream. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for your stuff. There are some Shutterfly books and maps over there. And just to give you a hint, in the fall, we hope to have Wildlands Conservancy here. And we also hope to have the people from the Lehigh River Gap Nature Center. This is special. This will be the third, fourth time that we've had this group here in the last 20 years. They have specialized in doing things in the Lehigh River Gap to counter the pollution that was caused by the zinc company. And when we first moved here, those hills were completely bare. Now they're not. And come learn about why. Thank you.
Thank you.